6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone, and if you can stand, would you please stand and say the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item of business is the review and approval of the agenda.
Yeah, Madam President, I would make a recommendation to make an amendment. Item G, conduct transfer student lottery for the 26-27 school year is not needed at this point. And so I would accept the agenda as presented with the amendment of removing item G.
Okay. You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the agenda with the removal of item G. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Halbert.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Reese. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the consent agenda. Review and approval of accounts payable voucher listings. The review and approval of the minutes of the regular session of February 23rd, 2026. The review and approval of the minutes of the executive session on February 23rd, 2026. Are there any questions? If there are none, I will assume there's consensus and we will move on. Next item is spotlight recognitions, and because of spring break, we don't have any tonight. Next item is comments from patrons. None being heard, we'll move on. Next item, reports on schools.
Mr. Gondel, I think you're up.
All right. Here we go. Mini audit of bank statements for February has been completed. The SAT school day administered, we administered that. That's for all juniors in the state of Indiana. 70 out of 70 for us participated. We had 100% participation and completed the assessment. I will share those results with you along with our PSAT, hopefully in April. We'll get those back. You can see how we competed and our students performed in relation to the state. On March 16th, our grade 7, and March 19th, our grade 8, we had student recognition. We continue to have those high expectations for students who met the behavior, attendance, and grades. They met those marks. We had a total of 91 between 7th and 8th grade. We took each to the bowling alley, Championship Lanes, where they got to bowl in the afternoon, and then we brought them back about 2:30 for dismissal. Just a way to celebrate their hard work for the 9 weeks. So that number keeps ticking up, and students gives them something to shoot for and work for throughout the quarter. On March 20th, we took 47 8th grade students on a tour of the Muncie Area Career Center and show them what different programs they have there, something to start thinking about as they move into their high school careers next year. Mrs. Christ was highlighted as the educator profile in the Herald Bulletin, March 17th. That was shared out. I think you can see that on the Herald Bulletin webpage. And a former student interviewed her who works for the Herald Bulletin, which was kind of cool. She had went to Ball State, and she's now a reporter for them. And she came back and did a educator profile. So Ivy Tech, we had our biomedical field trip there. Miss Finley teaches the Project Lead the Way biomedical classes. It is a pathway where students can take all three and satisfy graduation requirement. They went there and they went through various stations to give them some understanding of different careers in the biomedical. Student enrollment, 425, grades 7 through 12. The extracurricular, we have a few here, and then I'll get to the athletics. We have an esports group. It's led by Mr. Simpola. We've actually moved it up to the library just so it can be spread out and supervised better. And Mr. Simpola shared that Frank Lindsay, a senior, received a scholarship from Indiana Tech for esports. There, and when I said, what's that look like? And they said they are willing to pay 80% of his cost to go to school, and he competes in, I think the game's Marvel. I'm not real savvy on all the games, but I was like,
tell us anything, and we're not.
I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. He was excited, and he was excited for the young man too, to be able to benefit from that. Yeah, so that was exciting. Senior Adrian Stiers took first place in drawing in Madison County Artists Association Student Show. Over 50 entries, big and small schools all around, and she came out on top with the blue ribbon. Erin David, also a senior for us, participated. Her picture there, her artwork is there as well. Athletics, we closed out the winter season. On the report, if you have that, you can see reported out this way. Percentage of students, about 30% of our student population participated, 7 through 12. Those participating had a GPA of 3.05. About 8,000 spectators were in attendance for all winter sports. So it gives you an idea who's coming in and going out. And that's a pretty big number. Kind of cool to think about it that way. We had 228 contests, 104 which were at home, 114 were on the road. And if you look at participation by sport, we had 41 girls basketball student athletes, 5 through 12, 56 student athletes, 5 through 12 in boys basketball, 35 in wrestling, 5 through 12, and 46 in cheer. So it gives you a little idea of what that participation looks like. And then the individual academic team performance, I won't read through all, but it looks like the high school girls basketball had a 3.489, and that led all the teams in our winter season in terms of GPA during the season. So
That's nice. Yeah. I like the color pictures too on your report this time. That was cool. Okay. I see that elementary's attached. Do you want to go through it, or just us read it as?
Yeah, I do know that Mr. Reese had talked, and I think he'd shared about the again, I read. We're really close. I think we're in the 80 percentile after the first test, which, talking to some colleagues in the area, sounds like we're leading the way in that space. Out of the ones that didn't pass, like the vast majority are within 10 points of passing, and so we feel like we can get the vast majority of those for the retest. So I really think that the second grade iRead test has been helpful in just elevating literacy earlier for families. So I think that has been a benefit across the state. And again, our teachers have responded really well to that. Family Literacy Night was March 17th. Kindergarten Roundup, that's probably the big thing coming up, is April 16th. That'll be obviously my first kindergarten roundup, so looking forward to that. And our past e-learning was really working on the neuroscience of youth development and professional behavior supports.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on, items for school board discussion and possible action. March personnel report.
Yeah, and I would just like to point out a couple of things on the personnel report. I mean, we have some athletics, but obviously any new personnel have received background checks. We did increase 2 transportation employees based on some extra routes. If you're not familiar, we have a few students who receive some additional services or more one-on-one services in Muncie Community Schools, and so we have to transport them, and so we added another student, which was at a different location, which added time to those routes. So that's what the increase in the pay is there. I can pause or continue.
I've been sitting in the library where the agenda said it was.
Our mine agenda doesn't say it.
Yeah, it does.
So tonight, what I really wanted to highlight on the personnel report is that after 34 years of service to the Daleville Community Schools, Mr. Jeff Phillips is moving on to something else.
That's right.
and Mr. Phillips and Mrs. Phillips is obviously are here tonight, and I just want to thank you, Jeff, for all the years of service. Again, this is kind of a unique thing where I was here 25 years ago.
That's right.
And again, I just appreciate all
You came back, and I'm still here.
I came back, and you were still
And now you're leaving.
Yeah, now I'm leaving.
And but it's been a pleasure knowing you, and I'll be a pleasure to continue to work with you in the next several months, and
Right.
Maybe a little bit longer. And again, thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So did,
Good run.
so did you come right after Rudy?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, in 1991, Rudy left and he went to Maxim, and then, I was hired. Actually came in and ran some cable and some wiring before I was actually hired in the old office area. That was when they had, just the history. They had a fire in the office, if you remember that. And they put up paneling. I didn't put up the paneling, but then they, wanted closed circuit TV within the office, and I ran that cable. After hours, like a sub, actually.
But you weren't ever a custodian.
Never was a custodian. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your
We appreciate your service.
Yeah, I went through and I had Mr. Sylvester in keyboard in high school. Never thought that would, keyboarding, but that proved where I can really type. I still type fairly accurate, I survived learning Excel. And then Dr. Rhodes was here and he loved Google. I didn't like Google, but I think I mastered it. So, yeah.
Had to go with it.
Had to go with it, yeah. So.
Single Wi-Fi, I can't get signed in. I was signed in the library, but I can't get signed in.
There is Wi-Fi.
I typed in my right password. It's just not, it doesn't like me. This is for Diane, and that's good.
Okay.
Type in my password.
Yeah.
again.
I think where I was when I first hired in, personality wise, and where I am now, totally different. So much more, I feel like I'm so much more knowledgeable, it's like when Deb and I had some apartments, we started out with a lease that was 8.5 by 11, 1-page lease, and when we got done, it was 8.5 by 14, and it was like 20 pages long. And you just learn along the way, So this job has kind of been that way. You just, I came in a good time when they just went through the renovation. It was finished, wasn't quite finished. So I got to learn the new equipment. They went from steam. They were steam heating to boilers, and hot water boilers and Bryant boilers. They were 180-degree boilers. It really was, then we went to the renovation and went to the modulated boiler temperature. Well, it paid for itself. I mean, you guys did it with the decision, but it paid for like 3 or 4 years because it went from 180-degree temperature circulating through the building to 90. So, I mean, just the savings of where you didn't need that and it paid for itself. We qualified for that, STAR, program and so forth. But I mean, truly is technology in the classrooms where, the teacher had the old blue carbon, in the office, mimeograph.
Ditto machine.
Ditto machine, there we go. VHS tapes, the librarian would show VHS tapes. Now it's streamlined through Wi-Fi and so forth. I mean, it's just technology. It's technology everywhere around us.
So your job, really, you never got out of that on-the-job training kind of thing.
No, it's
You just had to
continuous.
keep
Continuous, yeah.
Yeah.
What went from the day we got away from the pneumatic lines controlling the temperature in the room to electronics was a good day. I mean, it was problematic at best with all the pneumatic controls in the units to, 0 to 8 volts DC was a certain movement on the actuator to 12 to, on up to 12 to 15, 16 volts DC was another movement, and everything in between, it was just spot on. So where before it was pressure and it was very problematic. So it's just always been.
So Mr. Phillips and I met with a lighting vendor to talk about a lighting audit, and it was a great example of 34 years of experience in a couple of buildings, because he had that institutional knowledge and walking through the different voltages and iterations in both buildings.
Yeah.
So
T12 to T8.
we got some work ahead of us between now.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna try to write a lot of that down because it's really, I mean, I've heard it say from Mr. Garrison right on through kids first. It's nothing about me, even though it's hard for me. It's really all about the kids. So.
Well, you can either write it down or they'll be calling you.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that. So
If you want to really retire, it's probably
okay.
a good thing to write it down.
Yeah. I told, there again, it's just history and technology. I told Mr. Garrison that we ought to have a map of all the house lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jeff, there's really not that many. And I got to listen to him. I was sitting in his office. After like 12, he goes, well, yeah, I think we better. So we walked the property house lines and we put it on a map, and we ended up that day with 18 private lines, house lines, like lines from the tower to the scoreboard. Well, a lot of those lines are still there, and we've cut some of them, putting in the new fence. But Adam Jones said, no, we don't need them. It's Wi-Fi now. So we really need to take those lines and, well, we don't need that. We don't need that one. That's not viable. So anyway,
You just need good Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, it's Wi-Fi, and we will have a lot of that. The network is out there now. So anyway.
Amazing.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So what are you moving on to? What's your next job, Jeff?
Well, like we said earlier, we give my son roughly 8 acres of our land to build a house, and he's building a house just north of us. And he has 2 kids, so it's 2 grandkids will live within short distance from us. And
Didn't you have bees for a while too?
I did. I had honeybees for a
I
while.
thought you did.
I've given it up, but I'd love to get back into it. And yeah, I have a greenhouse started. It's 30 by 50. A greenhouse started. I'm still working on it. Maybe it's going to be a full-time project.
That's a big greenhouse.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim Long.
But I want to do hydroponics in it. I went up to a seminar in Lodi, Ohio. And if you ever get on YouTube, it's kind of emulating or following
We have
homegrown
fish running
passions.
around too, fishing.
No, it's emulating homegrown passions.
Marijuana's not legal yet, Jess. You just keep remember that.
Never was into that anyway.
That's good to hear.
Good to hear.
Yeah, but yeah, I have
Bunnies
fruit.
have fish in there, the fish fertilize the plants.
I know the pH is really hard to keep track of in that. You have to really keep a handle on that. But yeah, I have fruit trees at home. You know, I have a pond at home.
Fish.
I know I'm going to describe this, but we, got the house in 2016 and it had a deck between the house and the pond. Well, the pond is on the south side of the house. So all that sun would hit and reflect and come up and it would, reflect in the house. Well, it wasn't good enough. So we put a porch on that deck. That deck is 44 foot long on the one side of the south side of the house. Now it's all covered. We've screened in half of it. Well, on the part that's not screened in, I can sit there raining, fishing the pond. So it's tough.
Yeah,
It's tough.
sounds like it's gonna be a good life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
enjoy it.
it's about a quarter acre, just a little bit over a quarter acre. We had it stocked probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
And probably need to do it again. Grandkids and Nixons have come out and they've fished it. And they just really enjoyed it. So probably need to stock it again. But yeah, there's plenty to do.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and I mow at home, believe it or not, I mow about 3.5 acres. So I got plenty of mowing and trimming, all that to do at home. Anyway.
Okay,
Okay,
Matt.
anything else on the,
No, I just make a
Personnel.
recommendation to approve the personnel report.
okay, you've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the personnel report as presented. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, ma'am, I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Halbert. The recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And our next item of business is consideration of fundraisers.
Yeah, and we have 5. We have junior high softball, Daleville Elementary cheerleading, 2 by Miss Heitzelman in the art club, and then boys and girls high school track for the month of March. I would make a recommendation to approve the fundraisers as presented.
All right, are there any questions? You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the fundraisers. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I so move.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, donations.
Yeah, and so we have one donation, an anonymous donation at Daleville Elementary for unpaid lunch fees of amount of $300. Make a recommendation to accept that donation.
Are there any questions? You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the donations. Is there a motion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mrs. Reese?
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Recommendation's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, and something's happened to my computer here.
On one page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted that too.
What'd you do to get out of it?
I didn't, I just scrolled down.
Yeah, it's down there.
It's down.
Is it on down?
Keep scrolling down.
Mine did the same thing.
Okay, there we go. All right. All right, the next item of business is the cancellation of outstanding checks from the DHS accounting books.
And just a reminder, we wait 2 years and Mrs. Markwell will make every effort to contact individuals about those checks beforehand and as well as Mrs. Hicks. So I make a recommendation to accept the consideration of canceling the checks as listed.
Are there any questions? You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the uncleared checks. Yeah,
Madam President, I so move.
thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, now I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Halbert. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the consideration of transfer from the education fund to the operations fund.
Yeah, so again, just a reminder for the board and the public as well, that we can move 15% from the education fund to the operations, where we have benefited from enrollment and education fund. It's been a good thing because our operations have been hit with Senate Bill 1 and seeing, again, some challenges in meeting our operations fund. So this transfer is to make sure that we stay in the black in operations.
Okay, are there any
And
questions?
make a recommendation to accept that resolution.
Are there any questions?
No.
You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve a resolution for the transfer of funds from education to operations. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Halbert.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. Could I hear a roll call vote, please?
Vicky Reese,
Yes.
Diane Evans,
Yes.
Ron Hubbard Jr.,
Yes.
Kip Quinn.
Yes. Motion has been carried. Next item of business, consideration of student capacity for the 2026-2027 school year.
So, and again, this is really regarding transfer students, the capacity for transfer students. So any in-district students, we'll always accept those. We have to legally accept those students. Transfer, we set this so we make sure that we keep our class sizes manageable. We do this on an annual basis. So these are the numbers that after speaking with Mr. Gondel and Mr. Reese, these are the numbers that I present to you and make a recommendation of accepting.
Are there any questions? You've all heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the student capacities for the 2026-2027 school year. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mrs. Reese.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. G, we decided we didn't need earlier on. So the next item of business, Daleville Community Schools Board of Trustees goals for 2025-2026.
Another half of my.
I know, I've lost it again too.
Yeah, I was like,
Way down.
Something with the format here.
long.
Yeah. On the goals and the school board goals, this is just a procedure. It's a procedural thing. We've several times talked about. We like not having all the paper, and we like having it on the computer for the most part. But we really would like a paper agenda.
Yeah.
Just so that we can take our notes on it.
Yeah.
Just not all the stuff, but just the agenda, the paper
Yep.
agenda.
Like, will that I have?
Yes, yeah, you could just make some extra copies of that. Yeah, yes,
I can empathize.
Okay,
Yes, we can accommodate.
okay, that'd be great.
you set a good example.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on our goals? So now that brings us down to for the good of the cause.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. One is, as we've talked about, and I've talked to the cafeteria staff in addition to Mr. Phillips, which again, we'll have to start working on kind of that transition plan as well, work with Mr. Phillips on that. But Ms. Reed leaving the cafeteria, retiring at the end of the year as well. So we are going to launch an RFP. I submitted that RFP to the Department of Ed today. So again, we're in the process of doing that, just to
And
keep
what
the
does
board.
RFP stand for?
Yeah, I apologize. Ms. Reese request, for proposals. And that request for proposals basically outlines what we're looking for, and then organizations can submit for a bidding process in response to that RFP.
How does that get advertised?
So the department does it for us,
Okay.
and that's part of why we submit it to them. They have a form and structure, and so they will advertise that. Ms. Hicks and I will probably work on a document locally, just saying like, this is released and where to find it. So that's for cafeteria. From a communication standpoint, as people are familiar with, we continue to work on our strategic planning and our work, and communication is definitely one of those areas where across the board, just we want to be better communicators. We want to be really thoughtful about communication. And so in the process, we are moving from School Messenger to Parent Square. And we're going to continue to communicate with staff and our families. I believe after spring break at some point, we'll look to also have a student square, and this will be an app-based where there's just a little safer space and more controlled space for coaches, teachers to communicate with classes, athletic teams. Parents will have access to that as well. And then as the board knows, we started our superintendent student advisory. Again, I want to thank Mr. Gondel, Ms. Reese for really helping pull that together. We had an application process, 42 students applied. We accepted 17 in the inaugural group. We've met twice, really have enjoyed, and I think they feel empowered and have a strong voice. And really starting to look at solutions like how do we better programming for youth across the district. And so one of the early things is they really want to bring back a mentoring program from the high school to that 6th grade class and help with that transition between the two buildings. So yeah, super good. And again, I'm just so proud of that group because they're really thinking about all students and not just thinking about how their experience can be better. So it speaks volumes about the young people in that group. And then we had our first strategic planning committee last Wednesday night. Really, again, like to thank Mr. Gondel and Dr. Stashevsky and Mr. Reese and our leadership team, 100% attendance. Came out that night. We had, I think, 13 staff members and about another 8 or 9 parents represented, and then a few community members as well from the hub and also the town as well. So exciting process that will continue through September, and then that will bring some recommendations back to the board.
Sure. Did you feed them?
We did. We got pizza.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you gotta feed people.
And certainly was appreciated.
And then they will come.
Yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate getting the agenda and minutes from those two.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I think that's
interesting.
good. And I think that's a good way to keep everybody connected to that conversation.
And do we get a list of who's on that committee?
I can get you that. Yeah.
I'd be interested to
Yeah.
see who's on
I think with the minutes from
it. Do they have
the students had a list of who
Students
was
had it,
there.
I know.
Yeah,
Students,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah, we student one, but I didn't know about that one. So you're gonna keep us updated then as those meetings happen and there'll be 3 hours at once a month,
It's 2 hours.
2
once a-
hours
Yeah,
once a month, okay.
5:30, 7:30, so.
All right. Is there anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. We are adjourned.